Chapter 4. How Popularity and Function Influence Aggression. From 1850 until 1899, there were dozens of different descriptions of dogs involved in severe and fatal attacks on humans. Some dogs were identified as a specific breed, others were described by their grouping, i.e., hound or spaniel, others by their function, i.e., sled dog or sheepdog, still others by their size, i.e., large dog, and some, simply by temperament, i.e., vicious dog. Nearly half of the fatal attacks reported from 1850 to 1899 did not identify the breed at all, describing the dogs primarily by temperament. The most popular descriptions were either a savage or vicious dog. Other times dogs were described simply by their physical condition, large brown mongrel, or starving dogs. In 1888, a dog involved in a fatal attack on a 2-year-old boy in Zanesville, Ohio was identified as a coal mine dog. On the rarest of occasions a dog was very precisely identified, as in a case in 1893 when a woman was attacked and killed by a black English Mastiff in Kentucky. Though the media in the 19th century was more attuned to presenting the triggers or causes for dog attacks, descriptions by breed or temperament were included to add interest or substance to a story. The case where a specific breed was identified in a news report was frequently accompanied by a description of the dog's immediate function. Pet Collie, Mastiff Guard Dog, and even Tramp Newfoundland, presumably meaning an abandoned or stray dog, are found as additional clues to the behaviors of the specific dogs. Both the public and the media understood that these were relevant factors in attempting to understand cases of aggression and attacks. The Mastiff. The Mastiff-type dog is an ancient breed, long used in human warfare, animal fight, and guarding. The Mastiff-type dog is the progenitor of other giant breeds. Many of the fighting breeds and some of the scent hounds are also descended from the ancient Mastiff-type dogs. In the Middle Ages, the primary function of the Mastiff became that of guardians of large estates. They were used to ward off intruders, poachers and undesirables from the lands of nobles and even less entitled landholders. Some of these dogs were known as band dogs, being tied during the day and released in the evening to patrol and protect the homes of the wealthy. The function of the Mastiff in 19th century America was strikingly similar, except they were kept in much smaller confines, such as warehouses, factories, shops or livery stables. The manner of their keep was little changed, the dogs being chained during the day and then released at night. It is no surprise that animals kept and prized for their protection and guarding abilities would be found in severe/fatal attacks on humans who trespassed and encountered these animals. Here also, breed identifications are questionable, as one story of an attack on a little boy was reported to be a Mastiff in one newspaper and the same boy was reported to have been attacked by a Newfoundland in another newspaper covering the same incident. Dogs involved in attacks during the late 1800s are described as Mastiffs, English Mastiffs, or Thoroughbred Mastiffs. In 1891, it was reported that a monster Thoroughbred English Mastiff, kept by the Clark Thread Company as a watchdog, attacked 2 young boys. One boy was severely injured after the dog bore him to the ground and tore his scalp terribly. In 1893, a boy managed to survive an attack by a Mastiff due to his age and ability to crawl away from the chained animal. The 12-year-old was playing with a friend in a deserted coach and carriage shop in New York City. The owner kept a huge Mastiff dog chained at the shop. For some reason the boy came within reach of the dog and the animal grabbed him, savagely attacking him. The boy survived because he contrived to crawl beyond the limits of the dog's tether. In 1878, in Bayonne, New Jersey, a large Mastiff dog escaped from his owner's yard and attacked a young girl on the street and, before anyone could intervene, killed her. During the late 1800s there were a fair number of Mastiffs, chained in cellars or in deserted buildings, found in severe and fatal attacks. There is little doubt the harsh and isolated conditions in which they were kept were the forces behind the aggression in these dogs. The Mastiff was overrepresented in reported attacks during the late 19th century because they were frequently used as guard dogs. When their popularity as guard dogs waned in the early 20th century and they were replaced by other protection breeds, severe and fatal attacks associated with this breed virtually disappeared. As Bloodhound, Newfoundland, and Mastiff attacks decreased dramatically beginning in the first decade of the 20th century, other breeds of dogs began emerging in reports of attacks as these new breeds caught the fancy of the American public and became popular. Beginning in the 1900s, temperament descriptions are largely replaced with breed or function descriptions, i.e., collie dog or police dog. The first half of the 20th century finds new and different breeds involved in fatal/severe attacks: collies, Boston Terriers, St. Bernards, Airedale Terriers. Great Danes, Chow Chows, German police dogs, German Shepherds, Doberman Pinschers, and Huskies were only some of the new breeds seen in aggressive encounters with humans. Collies. The collie was technically a holdover favorite from the 19th century, but the breed was not to reach the height of its popularity until the 20th century. The collie dog was well established in the United States during the 1800s. By the early 1900s this breed was already recognized as a hard-working, loyal farm dog and valuable companion animal. Like the Bloodhound and Newfoundland, the Collie was one of the earliest breeds recognized by the American Kennel Club, with the first dog registered in 1885. And like so many other breeds, there were different types of Collies and different names to describe the breed. Collie, Scotch Collie, Farm Collie, Smooth Collie, Rough Collie, Sheepdog, Shepherd Dog and Police Dog all described a type of colic dog. In the first few decades of the 20th century there were numerous accounts of severe attacks by collies reported in the newspapers of the day. And true to the reporting of the 19th century, early 20th century papers continued to reveal details believed to have contributed to the attack. In 1915, a report was found of a collie run amok. A large collie was responsible for attacking 2 children on a street in Indianapolis. The dog's owner was not known, so the dog was captured and taken to a veterinary surgeon who declared the dog was not suffering from rabies. The article concludes with the explanation for the dog's aggressiveness. It is believed the dog got lost and became frantic. 3. A 10-year-old boy was attacked by a Scotch collie in 1910. The flesh and muscles of the boy's chest and both arms were torn by the teeth of the dog. This story is interesting because it reveals what would later, in modern-day attacks, become a familiar and common event, that is, persons being less than truthful about their involvement or actions towards a dog prior to an attack. Here the victim claims he was only shouting to his friend and the dog rushed out of the yard and attacked him. However, The constable investigating the incident wrote in his report that witnesses claimed this was not a true account of what transpired and that the dog was on the porch and the boys were playing around the house and began to annoy the dog with sticks, and that the dog then attacked young Smith, who was the leader among his tormentors. In 1913, a boy was bitten over 30 times by a collie before being rescued. The dog was chained near an apartment in Tarrytown, New York, and attacked the boy when he attempted to pet it. In 1916, another account of an attack by a collie on a young boy provides information which describes the classic triggers and circumstances found in dog attacks. The article reports that a 3-year-old boy was severely bitten in the head and face when he attempted to pet an old collie on the head. The article goes on to state that, the dog, which was believed to be harmless, evidently mistook the boy's intentions in his semi-blindness. Fatal attacks on humans in which collies were involved are found during the early to middle part of the 20th century, making collies another example of a breed involved in increased severe/fatal attacks during a few decades and then becoming a non-issue in the decades to follow. In 1922, a 7-year-old girl was killed by a collie while playing in a friend's yard in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was speculated at the time that the child was in possession of a doll which the collie wanted to recover. Apparently the child refused to relinquish the doll and the dog knocked her to the ground and then began attacking her. She died an hour later from dog bites to the head and face. In Illinois, in 1930, another young girl was gravely injured by 6 pedigreed collie dogs that escaped from a nearby kennel. In November 1945, a young boy was killed by 2 collies at the farm he was visiting with his parents in Roscoe, Texas. There were also scattered cases of collie mixes or collies packed up with other dogs which resulted in fatalities during the first half of the 20th century. But collies have never been considered a vicious breed of dog, not even at the time when there was a noticeable increase in severe and fatal attacks, and the reasons for this are not terribly surprising. The collie breed appeared to have much credit in the bank of public opinion by the time severe/fatal attacks by collies began to be reported in the papers. Around 1910, collies had proven to be valuable and loyal working dogs and pets during the previous decades. Additionally, almost all functions associated with the collie breed were positive: guarding sheep, herding, all-purpose farm dog, police dog and companion animal. Another bonus to the breed was the pages and pages of good press given to these dogs when they performed a service to their masters. As discussed in the chapter on farm dogs, collies saved many a person from raging bulls and other dangers, and they often received the recognition they deserved for these acts of bravery and loyalty. No small contribution to the positive image and popularity of the collie was the 1919 publication of Lad, a Dog, a book which introduced the collie on a much larger scale to the American public. The tales of Lad include rescuing an invalid child from a venomous snake, fighting off burglars, winning ribbons as a show dog and performing other heroic deeds. Eric Knight's novel Lassie Come Home, released first as a short story in 1938 and then in book form in 1940, would further endear the collie breed in the heart and mind of the public. The collie breed had built a strong foundation as one of the good breeds. This foundation would be permanently cemented with the release of the 1943 movie Lassie Come Home and later with the long-running Lassie television series, 1954 to 1974. It is clear how the collie image was able to weather a decade or two of increased attacks and an occasional bit of bad press. The breed had so much credit to draw on and was so overwhelmingly portrayed in the media as a good breed that a handful of errant dogs could not tarnish the image of the breed. Even through times of immense popularity and indiscriminate breeding, the Collie remained a steady and reliable breed. While some may rightly attribute this to overall breed temperament, a vital additional factor is that the Collie was bred, maintained and obtained almost exclusively for humane and positive functions. A person looking for an aggressive watchdog or an attack dog was not about to seek out a Collie. The huge media events surrounding the Collie did increase their popularity with the average American family, but did not substantially increase their popularity amongst substandard or aggressive owners. Saint Bernard. Like the Collie, Saint Bernard's popularity overlapped from the late 1800s into the early part of the 1900s. The Street Bernard presents a rather unique case of very sporadic episodes of severe/fatal aggression, seemingly unrelated to function. Attacks are found around the turn of the century, then the breed disappears from severe/fatal attack episodes, only reappearing in the 1970s, in which a spate of fatal attacks are found. In the later part of the 1800s and early 1900s, the Saint Bernard was fairly popular and an easily recognizable breed in the United States. Unlike the other breeds seen in fatalities during this time, the Saint Bernard's popularity did not seem based on their use as guard dogs. Not only were the Saint Bernard dogs involved in such attacks not defined as guard dogs, but the attacks did not occur in locations usually associated with guard dogs, i.e., factories, stables and business establishments. An 1894 attack by a Saint Bernard demonstrates again the unrelenting nature of some attacks, with the dog intently focused on returning to the primary target of his rage. Here again, we find a frenzied situation where rescuers swing objects madly at the dog and in the process injure other persons. Mangled by a Street Bernard. A full-grown Saint Bernard dog attacked and nearly killed 6-year-old George Barrett. The enraged animal had thrown the child down and was viciously biting it when the child's father, attracted by the screams of his son, came to the rescue. With a baseball bat he drove the dog away, but when Mrs. Barrett attempted to carry the child into the house the dog returned and again attacked the boy. There ensued a terrible battle between the man and the dog, during which Mr. Barrett, in attempting to hit the animal, struck his wife, who was trying to protect the child, knocking her insensible. Finally an officer killed the savage beast. The child is in a precarious condition. The News, Frederick, Maryland, July 25, 1894. In 1901, a 10-year-old boy was playing with his friends on a street in Paterson, New Jersey, when a large Saint Bernard dog came rushing at him. The other boys scattered, but the dog seemed intent on this one particular boy, knocking him down and attacking him so savagely he died within minutes. The breed does not appear again in fatal attacks until 70 years later in 1972, when a Saint Bernard killed a young girl playing with him in California. The breed went on to be involved in an increased number of fatalities during the next decade and then only in a few sporadic cases found every decade or so following. During this 7-decade-long void of reported fatal attacks in the U.S., although some non-fatal attacks were reported, a few fatalities due to Saint Bernard dogs could be found in other parts of the world. This is interesting on many levels. The Street Bernard has never been associated with negative functions. If anything, the only functions assigned to the breed are extremely positive, namely, companion animal and rescue dog. The Street Bernard has never been considered a vicious breed, however. The Saint Bernard demonstrates better than any other breed how sometimes there are no answers or reasonable explanations for some canine behavior, and that the behavior of 1 or even 100 dogs cannot be used to define the temperament of an entire breed. One case in particular demonstrates the unexplained nature of some attacks, along with how quickly the aberrant behavior of a single dog resulted in the condemnation and demand for the destruction of the entire pack by the outraged father of a victim. In May of 1937, a French doctor accompanied by his 3 daughters were on a skiing trip in Switzerland when they decided to visit the famous monks of the Mount St. Bernard Monastery, the ancestral home of the St. Bernard breed. Since the 12th century, the St. Bernard dogs kept by the monks would rush out en masse to greet visitors to the monastery. This day, the pack approached the visitors and one of the dogs lunged at the man's 10-year-old daughter, killing her almost instantly. None of the other St. Bernard dogs in this large pack were involved, nor were the father or other 2 girls bitten. The Father Superior in charge of the monastery was grief-stricken and at a loss to explain why this occurred. This was the first attack on a human by one of their St. Bernard dogs since the founding of the Hospice of the Great St. Bernard in the 11th century. The father of the victim was very vocal and adamant in demanding the destruction of all the dogs, claiming they were all wolves in sheep's clothing. The completely unblemished image of the breed for the previous 8 centuries, the countless lives saved and humane service rendered by this breed all hung in the balance due to the actions of a single dog. It would take a month before the fate of all the St. Bernard dogs at the monastery would be decided. Fortunately, reason prevailed and the commandant of the Swiss gendarmes responded that the dogs would not be destroyed as they were not a public danger, and it must be recognized that the dogs rendered a great service to humanity throughout the ages. Sometimes, there is no satisfactory answer to an episode of canine aggression. The condemnation of an entire breed in response to the actions of a few dogs is always found to be based on emotion and not based on the breed's history, temperament, or long-standing record of cooperation and service to mankind. Fox Terriers, Boston Terriers and Airedales. While large dogs are physically able to inflict damage on a wider range of victims, small to medium-sized dogs are able to inflict severe to fatal wounds on smaller victims. Neither Fox Terriers or Boston Terriers are of sufficient size to show up in significant numbers in severe/fatal attacks. Nor were these breeds used in functions which would predispose them to be in situations where aggression towards humans was encouraged, yet there are rare cases of these breeds involved in severe to fatal attacks against humans. Fox Terriers. The image of a feisty little fox terrier attacking the pant leg of a man passing on the street seems more comical than dangerous. However, when this same level of aggression is directed at a small child, the results are far from humorous. A severe attack on a child by a fox terrier occurred in 1901. A 2-year-old boy was playing on the floor with the dog one evening when the dog began attacking the boy. The father rushed in to find the dog biting the boy on the legs. The little fox terrier refused to release the boy, and when the father kicked and pulled at the dog was separated from the boy along with 3 inches of flesh torn from the boy's leg. The child was taken to the hospital where an operation was performed to close his wounds. As this attack occurred in New York City during the middle of the summer, the excessive heat was noted in the article as a possible reason for the vicious attack by the dog against his former playmate. Although there is no documented case of a fox terrier-related fatality in the United States, a case of an infant being killed by his grandmother's fox terrier is found in the United Kingdom in 1966, and a more recent case of a fox terrier killing another infant is found in Australia in 1979. So while the size of the dog counts, what often counts more is intent or the level of bite inhibition in an individual dog. The same year as the fox terrier attack on the boy, another child was attacked by a bulldog while walking home from school. There is no question that size alone would indicate that a bulldog attack would be more damaging than a fox terrier attack. Yet this girl suffered only bruising on one arm and on the calf of one leg from the attack by this larger and more powerful breed. Clearly, the dogs in these cases had different intents and different degrees of bite inhibition. In many attacks, an individual dog's level of bite inhibition is what determines the severity of the wounds, rather than breed or size of dog. Boston Terriers. The Boston Terrier is one of the few breeds to originate in the United States. Although the breed was slightly larger in the early part of the 20th century than it is now, the Boston Terrier was still considered one of the smaller breeds. The Boston Terrier was also an American favorite. In the United States, the breed was at the height of its popularity from 1929 to 1935. It is of little surprise that at the height of this breed's popularity it would be found in cases of attacks against humans. As seen with the Fox Terrier, what some dogs lack in size can be compensated for in either intensity of attack, size of victim, or by increased number of attackers. A dangerous little Boston Terrier could be found in 1909 near Newburyport, Massachusetts. A 2-year-old boy was visiting his uncle and had wandered out to the backyard. The dog savagely attacked the boy, grabbing him by the neck and shaking him. The uncle rushed into the yard and had great difficulty in forcing the dog to release the boy. The child died from a broken spine. Apparently, the dog was known to be aggressive, as the article reports that the little boy was warned not to play with the dog. A slighter larger child was overcome and killed in 1934 when 2 Boston Terriers attacked her in unison. This unfortunate 5-year-old girl was attacked in the street after she followed her father down the road to bid him goodbye on his way to work. As she was walking the short distance home, 2 Boston Terriers ran out and attacked her. She died a few hours later from her injuries. Airedale Terriers. The Airedale Terrier breed again demonstrates that when a breed is extremely popular there will be a logical increase in attacks and bites. This breed is perhaps not as well known as it should be for its service as a sentry and messenger dog during World War I. The Airedale is a medium-sized dog, weighing about 45 pounds. From 1910 to 1930, the Airedale was extremely popular in the United States. President Warren Harding, 1921–23, and President Calvin Coolidge, 1923–29, both owned an Airedale Terrier. No doubt the breed was sought out by many Americans. And no doubt there would be situations in which these dogs would be involved in attacks. Although the Airedale is not considered one of the larger or more powerful breeds, fatalities and severe attacks did occur. In May of 1920, a small girl was killed when an Airedale bit her in the throat. The child was spending the summer with her parents at the home of the dog's owners in upstate New York. In 1923 and 1926, 2 more children were severely injured by Airedales in New York State. In 1925, a 12-year-old Colorado boy was credited with saving the life of his sister from an attack by an Airedale. The boy and his baby sister were in a yard and the dog began attacking the little girl. The boy lifted his sister and held her up in the air as the dog tore at him, trying to reach the girl. The boy was bitten 12 times before help arrived. Even adults can suffer severe or near-fatal wounds by an enraged medium-sized dog. In 1921 it was reported that a man hunting in Pennsylvania was attacked and injured by an Airedale Terrier which had been living in the woods. The man's clothes and flesh were torn by the animal. The hunter stated that after finally beating the dog off him, he did not shoot it because he heard the whining of puppies. 9 puppies, about 6 weeks old, were later found by a posse sent out to search for the overprotective mother Airedale. Another hunter who had previously encountered the dog said the Airedale was as savage as any wolf he ever saw. In Las Vegas, in 1931, a 16-year-old girl was credited with saving the life of her mother after an attack by her Airedale Terrier. The woman was reported to be terribly mangled by the dog she had raised from a pup. The woman had attempted to stop a fight between her Airedale and another dog in her backyard. She struck the dog with a stick and the dog turned upon her and knocked her to the ground, biting her viciously about the face. The woman, of slight build, was not able to ward off the prolonged attack. After the dog had bitten her numerous times in the face, she managed to turn face down to protect her face from further injury. The dog continued his attack and fortunately the daughter returned home from school and was able to pull the dog off of the victim. The dog made no attempt to attack the daughter. The injuries included one ear almost torn off, the nose torn to the bone, her cheek ripped open, and numerous bites to the body. When a breed is popular there is an increase in all types of events associated with the keeping of dogs. In 1918, in San Francisco, the owner of a Pomeranian dog sued an Airedale owner. The Airedale had killed the valuable Pomeranian and the owner was seeking damages for the loss of his champion show dog. Indeed, the Superior Court jury awarded the Pomeranian owner $500. This was a small fortune in 1918 or, as the newspaper reported, $125 per pound. The Pomeranian weighed 4 pounds. The examples of attacks by Fox Terriers, Boston Terriers and Airedales are presented not as an indicator of breed temperament, but to demonstrate 2 points. Small/medium dogs can exhibit occasional acts of extreme and dangerous aggression and the breeds of dogs involved in severe/fatal aggression change from decade to decade. Savage, vicious, ferocious dogs and mongrel dogs. Dog attack stories were of interest to the public 1 century ago and identifying the breed added another element of interest. It is not unreasonable to assume that in many, if not most, cases when a dog was simply identified as vicious or savage, it was the result of not being able to identify the breed. Most of these generic temperament descriptions undoubtedly were cases of mongrel or cur dogs. This is demonstrated in cases when a dog attack story was carried in multiple newspapers. Some incidents of dog attacks were reported in a number of regional newspapers and the breed of dog was always referred to if known. For example, a fatal attack in Chicago on a young boy in 1885 was covered in at least 6 different newspapers from Chicago to New York. All accounts identified the dog as a Newfoundland or a vicious Newfoundland. None of the reports neglected to identify the specific breed. Mixed-breed dogs have always made up a significant percentage of the dog population, so their appearance in severe/fatal attacks is a certainty. That these mixed-breed dogs should be listed as a ferocious dog, savage dog, large brown dog, or starving dogs, was only a matter of journalistic interpretation of what was a more valid description of the forces behind aggression than the simple term cur or mongrel. Especially in large pack attacks, it can almost be guaranteed the dogs were a mixed lot of crossbred and cur dogs. Had the pack been 5 Newfoundland dogs or 4 collies, this assuredly would have been reported as such. In 1884, a 9-year-old boy had taken a bow and arrow for the purpose of hunting in the woods near his home. When he did not return for some time, his parents and neighbors began to search for him. He was found, barely alive, at the edge of a field. Looking at one of the neighbors bent over him, he was able to say, "Your dogs bit me." No mention was made of how many or what kind of dogs the neighbor owned. The unfortunate boy was gravely injured and died soon after. An 1892 account tells of a fatal attack on a boy, Fred Ulrich, in Illinois. The boy was first attacked by one savage brute, presumably mongrel/cur dog, and, when a second dog joined the attack, the boy was overcome. He was passing the residence of Mrs. H. Mitchell, when a savage brute kept by that woman attacked him. Ulrich made a good fight, and would have come out all right had not another dog, owned by William Walrod, also attacked him. The Hamilton Daily Republican, October 24, 1892. There are a number of stories such as these, with no identifiable breeds. These incidents were very shocking and distressing to the people of the time, and the level of shock was not dependent on the breed or type of dog involved. However, during the early 20th century a number of cases are found where the newspapers did identify the dog involved in an attack as a mongrel, cur, mixed or crossbreed. Here again, the media is found providing information which helps define the behaviors of the dogs. In 1910, it was reported that an invalid woman who kept a large mongrel for protection was attacked and killed by the dog in her home. In 1917, a well-publicized report of a 9-year-old boy in New York City dying from a dog attack told of the boy trying to break up a dog fight between 2 mixed-breed neighborhood dogs, when both dogs turned their fury on him, attacking and killing the unfortunate boy. In 1926, a news report tells of starving mongrels attacking and killing a man in Yonkers, New York. Stories about children and adults attacked by mixed-breed dogs were reported with as much vigor and shock as found in accounts of the purebred dog attacks. The style and intensity of reporting found in unidentified breed attacks and identified breed attacks are virtually identical, with triggers, circumstances, relationship to victim and function of the dog reported if known.